When we start learning a programming language, it is very essential that our basics should be very strong. That's why in this module, we will be covering the basics of Python. So hello everyone and a very warm welcome to WsCube Tech. My name is Ayushi Jain, and as we discussed today, we will be covering the basics of Python in this complete module. If you want to become a successful data analyst or a Python developer and you want to learn from our experts live, then you can call on the given number or you can fill the form provided in our description. Not just that, you will get 2 demo classes for free with our every batch. So let's get started, guys. Now today onwards, we will be learning how to write our first program in Python. I hope you all are as excited as I am. So let's get started. So print statement would be our first program in Python. What is print statement? Let's understand that first. Print statement allows us to write any message that we want to display on our output screen. So how to write this print statement? Let's have a look on that. Okay. So in the last session, we learned how to create a file. I have already created a file called as demo.py. I'll be using the same file. Now how to write a print statement? I will just write print. If you even write print, the PyCharm gives you the suggestions that what are all the possible keywords that could come with p. I'll be writing print. Open parentheses. Parentheses are the curved brackets. Then open double quotations. You can use single or double quotations according to your choice. There is a drawback of using single quotations that we will be discussing later. For now, let's understand with the double quotations. I'll be writing my message inside it. Let's say I'm writing hello world. And for the run button, you can right click and it gives you the option to run the code, or on the right hand side on the top we have the run button as well. It's a green color button with the arrow, and if you click on this, it runs the code, and as you can see, the hello world is printed over here. Similarly, if you want to write anything else, let's say instead of hello world, I will be writing I love Python, and I hope that after this course, even you guys will fall in love with Python. And if I run it, it prints I love Python for us. Right. So this is our first program. I would like you guys to try this and quickly open your PyCharm and give it a try. Write print, give a space. Space is anyways not required, but it makes our code look neat and clean, so that's why I prefer using space, but totally up to you. So you can use a print statement, give a space, open parentheses. I'll repeat, parentheses are nothing but the curved brackets. And then we will be using double quotations, and inside it you can write any message that you want to write, and the Python will print it for you. It will give it to you in your output screen. Now let's say I want to write multiple lines. I will say print this is my first Python program. Okay. Again, if I want to write print I hope you all like it. So if I run the code, okay, you can see it gives me 3 lines of I love Python. This is my first Python program and I hope you all like it. But what if I don't want to use this print statement again and again? So to avoid using print statement again and again, we have a method where we can write multiple lines at one time. Let's see how it is done. So to use print statement to write multiple lines in one single print statement, there are 2 methods. We will see both of them one by one. First method is to write it inside the triple quotations, triple double quotations, or triple single quotations. And the another method is \n, that whenever you want to go to the next line, you use a backslash. I'll repeat, not slash, but the backslash and n, it is used to insert something in the next line. Let's see how it is done. Okay, so let's have a look on how it is done. So I'll just remove all this and probably start with parentheses, triple double quotations. It automatically gives me the n triple double quotations, and inside it I can write I love Python. It allows me to go to the next line, while if you will use a single quotation, it won't allow you to go to the next line. It will throw an error for you. but double quotations is allowing me to go to the next line. So I love Python. This is my first program. And lastly, hope you all like it. So once I click on run, you can see it's again printing the similar 3 lines, but this time we are using only one print statement. So this is one method. The another method would be backslash and n. So let's say I'm using single print statement with only single quotations. What I can do whenever I want to go to the next line, I'll use a backspace over here, a backslash and n. And whatever I want to next line will be followed inside it. And again, backslash and n, and whatever needs to be written in the next line will be followed by it. So let's see how it works. So once I click on the run button, it again gives me the same output. So here we can see 2 different methods of writing multiple lines in single one print statement. So you can use it with the triple quotations, or you can use it with double quotations as well. Okay, as I was saying that there is a drawback of using single quotation in print statement that would come when you are writing something in apostrophe. So let's say I'm writing, it's going to rain today. I'm making a prediction here that it's going to rain today and closing with a quotation. And if I run it, it will throw me an error. Why this error is coming? Because the Python is, yes, Python is smart, but not that smart to understand that where we are using an apostrophe or where we are closing the single quotations. So that's why I would recommend you to use double quotations, but still if someone is very stubborn to use single quotations, they can use a backslash in front of apostrophe. So now if I use a backslash and apostrophe and click on run button, it will work. It will write it's going to rain today. So yes, there is a drawback, but there is a solution for this drawback as well. That is backslash and apostrophe. Okay. So I hope everything that I taught in this session is clear to you. How to write a print statement, how to display a message in output, how to display a multi-line message in output using a single print statement. We learned 2 methods, and one method is to use triple quotation, another method is to use backslash and n. Now in today's session, we will be learning to write comments in Python. Now first of all, what are these comments in Python? Comments are something that are completely ignored by the Python. It is not something that is need to be executed by the Python. Comments are completely for the use of the user or the programmer. So when we write, let's take example that when we write, huge code where we have certain different steps that, okay, in step 1 we have to do this, step 2 we have to do that. Just like how we create a timetable where we can, describe, okay, in this hour of time I'm going to do this, in that hour of time I'm going to do that. Similarly, we write comments to make our programs look neater, clearer, and if we are showing it to someone else, it's easy for them to understand, okay, that in this part of the program they have done this. So it's basically not for the use of computer or not for the use of the Python, but it is totally for our use. Now let's see how to write these comments in Python. To write a comment in Python, we can simply put a hash over here and write anything inside it. In the next line, I am going to print hello world. Okay, and if I write print hello world and run this code, so you will see it only prints hello world and completely ignores the part where I have written in the next line I am going to print hello world. Right? Let's see what happens if I remove this hash from here and run it. So now it's throwing an error. It says invalid syntax. Why it's throwing an error? Because there is no hash. Python thinks that a person has tried writing some things because it involves the print thing as well. Because it involves some key terms from Python. So all we need to do is put a hash in front of it, and then Python will completely ignore everything written after the hash. So in the next line, I'm going to print hello world is written inside the hashtag, followed by print hello world. Now suppose if I want to write another comment, let's say this is my first, I'm just writing something randomly. So this is my first program. I hope you all like it. Okay, so instead of writing hash again and again, there is another way. So to write multi-line comments, we can use again triple quotations. In the print statement also we can use triple quotations to write multiple lines, and similarly here in the form of a comments also we can use triple quotations. So anything I write inside it, let's say in the next part of this program, I'm going to print hello world. It is my first program. I hope you all like it. If I run it again, it is completely ignored by the Python. So these are all about comments, that there are two ways where you can write a comment. If you want to write a single line comment, you can use a hash, and if you want to write a comment into multiple lines, then you can use triple quotations, totally according to your choice. In today's session, as we are going to learn about variables. Variables, you might have heard the term before. Let me explain you variable in a very simple term. Understand variable as a container that holds some value. So let's say it's a glass of water. So variable is the glass and the water inside it is the value. Now value can be increased, decreased or changed according to you. There can be a water inside it, there can be a juice or a cold drink inside it. So the container, that means the variable remains constant, but the value inside it changes throughout the program. We'll go with the definition as well, that variables are placeholders which can store a value. So in simple words, it's a container that holds a value. Okay, how to write a variable? Let's come on that part. How we can write a variable. To create a variable, all you need to do is give it a meaningful name. Let's say I'm going to give name. Name is equals to John. Okay, and I'm not going to print John, I'm going to print name without double quotations. So if I run this program, it prints me John, right? Similarly, I'll write for age, that age is equals to 23, print age. If I run the program, it prints John 23. Okay. This is how a variable can be created, right? If you want to add more things to it, you can add more things to it. So here you will notice that we have John written inside the double quotations, while the age of John, that is 23, is written outside the double quotations, which is the difference in the data types, which we will be further studying in our upcoming sessions. So as of now, just understand how a variable can be created. To create a variable, there are certain rules that we need to follow. Let's study those certain rules, that what are the rules to write a variable. So here are some rules for writing the name of the variables. So our first rule is Python is a case sensitive language. Now what is this case sensitive language? Let's understand that with the help of an example. Okay. So here I'm taking an example. Let's say I have created a variable called as name. Name is equals to John. Using the similar example as before, and this time I'm going to print name. You might well notice over here that name here is written in capital M-N, while here the name is written in small n. Let's see what happens if we run the code. Okay. It throws an error and says that name is not defined. The capital N name is not defined. The small n name has been defined, that the small n name refers to John, that John is there inside this variable, but there is no capital N name. So we need to be very careful about the cases, that if we are using a smaller case while writing the name of the variable, while printing it or while using it anywhere, we will be using the smaller case as well. This is our first rule. So here now the name works. Let's come to our second rule. Our second rule says that make sure to not use spaces while creating a variable. While you're writing two values, let's say when you're creating a variable called as even number, odd number or positive number or something that has two words inside it, we cannot use spaces over there. So what we can use? Let's take an example for that. So as I said, we cannot use two names together. Let's see what happens if we use two words giving a space in between. So I'm creating a variable called as even number is equal to 2 and print even number. Okay. It's already showing me there is a red line below here. Red means danger, and red here is an error. But still, I'll run the program and show it to you that yes, it's an invalid syntax and it's throwing an error towards the number side. It's giving its arrows towards the number side. Why it's doing it? Because we have used a space in between. So what we can do over here is, instead of using a space, you can use an underscore. Don't use a dash, that means the hyphen. You can only use underscore. Okay, and now if I run it, it works, right? Even number is equals to 2 and printed even number, so 2 has been printed over here. Now let's see another way. Now let's see what is the second thing that you can do. So instead of writing even number like this, you can capitalize NUM. So it would look like a separate word itself, that even, okay, starting with the capital N, then it's a number. So even number. And if you run it, yes, it works. So yes, there are two methods where you can avoid writing spaces, and you can use underscore, or you can change your cases and make it work. Let's go to the third rule. Let's see what our third rule says. So our third rule says that a variable name should never start with a number or a special symbol. Now what does this mean? Let's see an example. So what does this thing mean, that our variable name should never start with a special symbols or number? Let's say I want to write one number is equals to 12, 2 number is equals to 13, and print one number, comma, 2 number. Right. As you can already see, we have so many errors over here, so many red underlines. So yeah, I'm still gonna run it. And yes, it's an error. It's the error is indicating towards 1, that 1 is not valid over here. We cannot use numbers or special symbols. You can over here, you cannot use star num over here. Right. Yes, you can use number 1. Here also you can use number 2, but not 1 number and 2 number. You can use a symbol in between of the variable or in the end of the variable, but you cannot use it in the starting of the variable. So variable names should never start with the numbers or special symbols. And if I run it, yes, it gives me the output 12 and 13. So these are 3 rules for writing the variable names. Our first rule says that the Python is case sensitive language, where we need to take care about the cases, that if something is written in the capital letters or smaller letters, then it should be followed throughout the program. Second thing says that there should not be use of spaces in between. We cannot use spaces between 2 words while creating a variable. Third rule says that a variable name should never start with the letter or a special symbol. So I hope how to create variables and what are the rules for writing the variables are pretty much clear to you all. And in our next session, we will be learning about data types, what are data types, and how to take inputs from the users. So what are data types? You might have heard this term before, data. Yes, data and types you might have heard as 2 different words before. Together it's a data type. Data type are the values, the type of data that we can store inside a variable, whether we are writing a combination of characters inside it, whether we are using a numbers inside it, a decimal numbers inside it, whatever we are using inside it, those are called as data types, that what type of data we are inserting inside a variable. So Python has many data types. Let's have a look on them. Python has a text type data type, which is strings. Inside a string, you can write the combination of letters, numbers, and special symbols. In the numeric types, we have integers, floating point, complex. There might be some terms that are really new to you. So as of now, just understand that these are the types of data, but then we will be covering all the topics in our upcoming sessions. So we have sequence types, that is list, tuples, and range. We have mapping types, that are dictionaries, short form is DICT. Set type, we have set and frozen set. Boolean type, Boolean gives us true or false for a particular condition, so bool. Binary types, we have bytes, byte array, and memory view. So here are some example of data types. You can once go through them, but yes, we will be discussing them in details in our upcoming session. So these are some data types that you can use inside the variable names. We have learned in our previous session how to write a variable. In our today's session, we will be learning how to take user inputs. Now, what is a user input? User input is nothing but taking an input from the user about their basic details, any details that you want to take from the user. Suppose you are creating a sign-in form. You want to take details from the user like what is your name, what is your age, what is your date of birth, and what is your gender. So you're taking an input from the user, just like how we go to a new website and when they ask us to sign in, they ask us for the details like enter your name here, or maybe enter your username here, enter your age here, enter your gender here, enter your password here. So they are asking details for us. Similarly, here also we will be asking details from the user. We will be learning how to ask for these details. Let's have a look at the example. Okay. So let's have a look on how to write a user input, how to take an input from the user. So I'm creating a variable over here called as name. So name is equals to input because I'm taking an input from the user. That's why I will be writing the word input over here, followed by parentheses, that are the curved brackets, and double quotations, that enter your name here, followed by a colon. Colon is not required, but yes, again, it makes my program looks nice and clean. That's why I'm using a colon and a little space for the user to write something over there. And then I'm gonna print it. So print name. Let's see what happens when we run the program. It says enter your name here. So I'll write. It prints down. Whatever name you will write over there, it will automatically print over there. If I write Lisa, it prints Lisa for me. So it's taking the input from the user and printing it right away. Also, you can ask for different things. Age. Now, age uses integer. Integer. Okay, so there are some important data types that we will be discussing here. The first one was string. String was the one where you can use a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. Everything written inside the double quotations comes in a part of a string. So let's say, okay, another thing about taking user input is that default which has been set for taking a user input is string. If you have not mentioned that you want the input in integer or in floats or in any other data type, then the default is set to string. Let's say I want to take an input in integer. So I'll add a comment over here, taking input in integer, right? How to take an input in integer? I'll write age. Age obviously is a number. Integers are all the numbers, positive, negative, all the numbers comes in the category of integers, but not the decimal ones. Those comes in the category of floats, which we will be discussing right after this. So let's understand integers. For integers, I'll be writing int. Int is the short form that we will be using. Int input. Enter your age here and print age. Now, if I run the program, it asks me enter your name here. So in the name, let's say I have written John. In the age, I'll write John is 23 years old. It prints 23 for me. So this is how it works. If I would have not written int over here and I would have used a string over here, like not written anything, it would have given me the age in 23. Here, in the terms of age, it is fine that if it prints it in a string. But let's say if you're doing a mathematical operation. In mathematical operation, if you're taking a user input in string, it won't work. Let's have a look on that as well. Let's say here I'm writing number 1 is equals to input, enter a number here, and number 2 is equals to input, enter another number here. So person will randomly write any number, and what I'll do, I'll write the addition of this. So print number 1 plus number 2. Right. Let's run and see what happens. So in the name I'll be writing John. In the age I'll be writing 23, and enter a number. I'm writing 12 plus 13. It gives me 1, 2, 1, 3. It's basically adding both the strings. It's not adding the numbers, it's adding both the strings. Now let's see what happens if I write int in front of it. If I write int input and close the brackets in the end. Again, if I write int input and close the brackets in the end, and now if I run the program, so the name is John, who is 23 years old. I'm getting to know this guy, John. 12, 13, it gives me 25. So you can see here, while doing the mathematical operations, we can use the terms integers. And if you don't really need it, then yes, we can actually avoid writing int if it's not really required. But yeah, in mathematical operations, we can use it. Coming to the next part, we have decimal numbers. So yes, we can write positive numbers in the categories of integers and negative numbers in the categories of integers. But what about the numbers which have decimals? For those, we have floating points that are called as floats. So I'll write taking input in decimal number. So let's say I'll write number 3 is equals to float input, enter a number here and print number 3. Okay, to avoid writing all these things again I'll put it inside the comments. And if I run the program, let's say I write over here 23. Even though I'm writing 23, even though it's an integer, it's converting it into a floating point. And while it's not the same when we are writing an integer, if you're asking a user input an integer and you end up writing something float, or even after addition, multiplication, division, or subtraction, by applying any of the operators, if you get the output in float, that would be an error. So yes, for the decimals, we need to remember using float. The short form is float and the complete is floating points. They are called as floating points. The short form is float. So float input, enter a number here. So these are 3 majors. One more is there, that is called as, the next thing is our eval. Eval stands for evaluate. When you want to evaluate any algebraic expression or you want to solve any equation, you can use evaluate. Let's see how it is done. Evaluating an equation. To evaluate an equation, I'm creating a variable called as number 4. Number 4 is equal to eval input. Eval is the short form for evaluating, and write an expression here. I'll be enclosing it inside double quotations. Now print number 4. Let's see what happens when we run it. I'll enter a number here, let's say 23, print it. Let's write an expression over here, or maybe an equation over here. So I'll write 12 plus 13. Okay, it gives me the output as 25. Let's say I'll run it again and I'll tell it to print hello world. It will print me hello world. So you can see over here that not just with the equations, but anything that you write in a Python statement, it can evaluate it and give you the output over here. That is what evaluate is used for. The short form is eval. So in this session, we learned what are data types and what are the different types of data types we have, how we can take the input from the user, how we can take the user input in a name, in an integer, in a float, in how we can evaluate an equation or an expression given by the user. In our today's session, we will be learning about typecasting and its subtypes. So I hope that video was clear to you and you have no doubts and no questions. So we will be moving ahead with our new topic, that is typecasting and subtypes. First of all, we will be discussing what is typecasting. Typecasting is nothing but converting one data type into another data type. When you convert one data type, that let's say it could be anything, it could be integer, float, string, or evaluate or any data type into another data type, it is called as typecasting. Now, typecasting can be of two types, that is implicit type conversion and explicit type conversion. Let's talk about each of them one by one. Implicit type conversion. Implicit type conversion is a conversion where the Python automatically converts one data type into another data type. While explicit type of conversion is a conversion where we users or programmers have to convert one data type into another data type by ourselves. So when the Python does it automatically, it's called as implicit typecasting. When we do it, when we users do it, it is called as explicit typecasting. Now, how this conversion is done, it is very simple. Let's have a look on it. So here I'll add our topic, typecasting. First of all, we will be talking about implicit typecasting. So implicit typecasting is the one where the Python itself converts one data type into another. First of all, how to find this type of data that we are using. So suppose if I write A is equals to 23 and if I print type A inside the bracket and if I run this code, here I'll get my output that it belongs to the classes of integer. So this is an integer type data type. At the same time, if I write instead of 23, if I convert it to 23.98 and run the program again, it will tell me it belongs to the classes of float. So there are different data types over here, and depending on what we are writing, it tells us that what type of data type it is. Right? So yes, coming back to our topic, that implicit typecasting. What is implicit typecasting? Let's understand implicit typecasting with the help of this example. I'm going to create a variable over here called as A. A is equals to 23 and B is equals to, let's say, 1.23. Okay. If we check the data types for both of them, let's write print A, print type A, and print type B. And if I run the code, it tells me that the first one, the A belongs to the classes of integers, while the B, that is 1.23, belongs to the classes of floats, which is true. Because A is a whole number and comes in the category of integer, while B is a decimal number, that is 1.23, and comes in the category of floating points. Right? Let's write print A plus B. So the output would be 24.23, and we can obviously see here that the type of data type we have is float. 24.23 would be a float data type. So here what Python is doing, it is automatically converting combination of data types into another data type. So if we have an integer and float, it converts it into a float. That is our implicit typecasting. Now what is explicit typecasting? We'll discuss that. So here I'm going to write explicit typecasting. Explicit typecasting. Let's consider another variable called C is equals to 23, but this time I'm going to put this C inside the double quotations, and B is equals to 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I'm going to write print C plus D. And if I run this program, let's see what happens. It gives us an error that one is a string, another one is an integer. So now what should I do to convert this C into an integer? So what I'll do, I'll write C is equals to int C. Now if I print C plus D and remove this statement from here, so now it gives me the output 146, that is the addition of both C and D. So even though if it was a string, if we write it in this way, that C is equals to INTC, that converts the C into an integer. Similarly, if you want to convert it to another data type, you can write C is equals to float C. Now automatically a decimal will appear over here, that it gives us 146.0. So this is how explicit conversion is done, where you can convert the one data type into another data type by yourself. This was the difference between implicit and explicit. I hope the difference is clear to you, and I hope what is typecasting, that is also clear to you. In our today's session, we will be solving problems related to the topics that we have covered so far in this module. So one by one, we will be starting solving problems. We have 5 problems in front of us. We will be solving all of them. First of all, we'll start with the problem number 1. So our first problem says, write a program to display a person's age, name and address in 3 different lines. Okay, let's create variables over here. We know that, okay, we have to write a person's name, age and address. So we can take a variable, plus we can do it with a simple print statement as well, like print. Let's say the person's name is John. Print, we can write over here the age. So 23. Print address. Let's say the John lives somewhere near street 25, house number 678. 325, house number 678. Now if I run this program, it gives me John 23, street 25, house number 678. There's this way to do it. Other way is when we take a variable. So we can take a variable called as name. Name is equals to John. Age is equals to 23. Address is equals to street 25, house number 678. And then we can print all of them. So print name, print age, and lastly print our address. So if I run this program, it will print me John 23, street 25, house number 678. So there are 2 methods of doing it. One with simply writing the print statement. Second one is we create a variables and print those variables. You can go ahead with any of these methods. It's totally up to you. Now we'll start with our question number 2. So our problem is to write a program to swap 2 variables over here. Let's create any 2 variables. So I'm creating a variable A whose value is 23 and variable B whose value is, let's say, 46. Now what I'll do, I'll write A, comma, B is equals to B, comma, A. What it will do, it will assign the A's value to B and B's value to A. Now let's say I'll write print the value of variable A is, I'll put a comma. So far it is a string. To write a variable, I'll write A over here, print the value of variable B is, comma, B. Okay, so according to our program, according to the problem, our variable A should be 46 and our variable B should be 23. Let's run and see. Yes, the value of variable A is 46. Here it is 23, but because we have swapped, so for swapping, what we have done, we have written A, comma, B, that means the 2 variables that we need, and the variables we need to swap into, so we want to swap A to B. So all we need to do is write A, comma, B is equals to B, comma, A. So that's how we can do the swapping of 2 variables. Now, our next problem is problem number 3. Write a program to convert a float into an integer. To convert a float into an integer, this is a part you might have understood that this is a part from typecasting, where one data type is converted into another data type. So here what we are going to do, we are going to convert a float into an integer, which is very simple. All we need to do is create a variable. I'm creating a variable a over here, assigning it a value of a float. So float means decimal numbers. So I'm gonna write over here 13.876. Okay. What I need to do is I need to convert it into an integer. Right now, if I print it, print a, and also if I print the type of a. So let's see what output we get. We get it's 13.876 and it belongs to the classes of float. All we need to do is to convert it into integer. To convert it into integer, we will be writing a is equals to int a. Now I'm going to print a and also I'm going to print the type of a. So if I run the program, you can see previously it was 13.876 and the class was float. Now when we converted it into the integer, it went back to 13. It removed the values after the decimal and only wrote 13. And the type is integer now. That's how you can convert a float into an integer. Okay guys, coming to our problem number 4, it says write a program to take details from a student for ID card and then print it in a different lines. Okay. So let's take details. So if we have to take a detail from someone, we take an input from the user. Here we will be using user input. So I'm gonna write over here what details we need for the identity card or for a student is we take their name, we take their so let's assume that it's a college identity card. So which year they are studying in, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So first thing is name. Name comes in a string. We know that the data type that we are going to use here is string, which is default. That's why we don't need to write anything over here. We can directly write input, that we are taking the input from the user and enter your name here. Okay. After taking the name as an input, I will be asking for the person's year, that in which year they are studying. So year is equals to input. Enter your year here. Okay. Now, why I haven't used integer over here? Because a student might write 4 or can also write 4th. So it is totally up to them that they write 4 or 4th. So to avoid happening that, here we are not going to do anything with the algebra, or we are not using it in the equation, so that we need to use int only. We can use string as well, so that if a person, it's totally up to person that if they want to write 4 or they want to write 4th. Right. So we are taking an input as a name, second input as a year, and maybe we can ask them for their contact number. So yes, phone number will be an integer. So here I'll write phone underscore number. Another the rule for writing a variable, that we cannot use a space in between. We can use an underscore, but we cannot use a space in between. That's why I'm using an underscore in between. And int input, enter your phone number here. So I guess these 3 details would be enough for a student ID card as of now. So let's print it. Print. We are going to print name. Next thing we are going to print, as we are told to print it in different lines. If we were told to do it in the same line, I would have written it name, comma, year, comma, phone number. I would have done it like this. But because we have been asked to do it in different lines, so in the first, I'll take a print statement, write name in it. Another print statement, write year in it. And then another print statement where I will be adding the phone number. So phone number here. Let's run and see what happens. It's asking for the name. So let's say name is John. John is now younger because he is in college now. So let's say he is 19 years old, and his phone number is, I'm just taking any random number, So John, who is 19 years old, and this is his contact details. It can get printed in the student ID card. So we have taken the details for the student ID card. If you want to make our program look more aesthetic, then you can also add, some modifications to it. That on the top you can write student identity card, right? And here with the name, we can add student name inside the quotations and put a comma. You can add a colon to make it look nice. Student year, student, and I'll put a comma in between. And lastly, contact details, and I'll put a comma in between. So now let's run and see what happens. So I'll write over here John, who is 19 years old, and I'll write a random number. So it says student identity card, student name is John, student year is 19, and contact details are given. So this is how you can create an identity card for anyone. This kind of a program can be used when you want to take different kinds of inputs from the user, maybe a sign-in form or any kind of details when you want to take from the user. This kind of programs can be used. Okay. Coming to our last question of this problem solving, after this I guess this module will be completely clear to you that what we have studied in this module and how we can solve different problems related to this module. So our last question is to write a program to take a user input as an integer. We will be asking the input from the user as an integer, and then we will be converting it back to a float. So let's do that. I'll create a variable called as a is equals to int input, and enter a number here. We will be asking the user to enter a number here. We will print this number, whatever this number is. Let's print it so that we'll come to know, okay, it's working or not, it's working properly or not. Print. We will also print the type of this number to check. Now what we will be doing, we will be converting this a to an float. So a is equals to float a, and print the type of a as well. So let's run and see what happens. Enter a number here. So I'm gonna add, let's say, I need to write user input as integer. So let's say I'll write 24. It tells me 24, then gives me that it belongs to the classes of integer. After conversion, it converts it to 24.0 and tells me that it belongs to the classes of float. So this was before conversion, this is after conversion. 24.4 and belongs to the classes of float is after conversion, after we have converted the integer to the float. Alright guys, so I guess these questions are pretty much clear to you. I think you will be able to solve questions like these. I hope this problem solving would have been much more helpful to you, because I think the theory is, yes, easy to understand, but until and unless we do it practically, we are not able to do it properly. We're not able to understand certain things properly. So yes, encoding practical is really, really important. So that's all for this session. In this session, we learned how to solve problems related to the topics that we have covered so far in this module. I hope everything is clear to you and you're not left with any doubts or any questions. So stay connected, and we will be starting with a new topic in the next session where you will be learning a lot of things. So see you in the next session.